glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this. South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this. South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this.
Wait a minute.
Did I hear him say that some of the people that was kidnapped and brought over here for slavery may have DNA connection to Israel? We need to take a closer look at this.
Rolo was Adam Day, the first of the same traditional area, which has been known for many years as the Shai traditional area. But actually, it is the Se traditional area. I am a Dangbe, but I speak the Se language. The name Se, which has been corrupted after the Inquisition or the enslavement of our people, they changed the name, and particularly around 1892, we had a serious conflict with the occupiers. That means those who enslaved our people. We resisted with all force because we knew that it wasn't right for our forefathers to be taken away into slavery, or the sons of the Se to be taken into slavery. So in our resistance, we use all means necessary to defend ourselves. They may not be Adan or Krobo necessarily. They are part of the Dangbe group. But when you say Dangbe, you have to identify which group you belong to. Whether I am a Se or Klo, or Adan, or Buglan, or Usue, or Ningo. Then we have others also like Boom and the rest. But once upon a time, we were all the same people. We were the same people. In fact, the people known today as the Ga and the Dangbes and the Evers, who were the same people. We all migrated from Israel, as the history goes, came through the Nile, through Niger, through Benin, through Dahomey, before ending in Ghana. So historically, when you ask our cultures and you ask our history, we make reference to where we came from. We were one people, but during early times, there were misunderstandings and we broke up in different groups, but we are the same people. So when you say people in Ghana, even today, because less has been said about us, but we have retained our strong history and culture.
You had a maturation process last year. You had your bar mitzvah.
Yeah, bat mitzvah.
Bat mitzvah.
Yeah,
That looked dope.
I'm a girl.
That looked popping.
Yeah, it was popping. It was like the party of the year for me. I had a blast. It was a lot of hard work getting up to it because I had to learn Hebrew and learn. I did the Vietza. That was my portion of the Torah, which is basically in Genesis, and I talk about how Jacob had the dream about the ladder and the angels going up and down the ladder, and I had to teach about what I learned. So that's about what it is.
I see you rocking the Star, David. It's interesting because you went to how you pronounce it?
Eritrea.
A few times. That's Africa, but it got you closer to your Jewish heritage,
Yeah,
right?
It got closer to my roots all the way around, But let's be honest. When I was 15, 16 years old, I started doing bar and bat mitzvahs, so I was already kind of close to it. My grandma was telling me that's what my father was, and I didn't know if she was telling me that just to be telling me so I could get the job doing the bar and bat mitzvahs, so I could make some money, so I could stop asking her for money, or if it was true, right? And then I finally met my father at 27, and then he told me it was true, and that when he was on alcohol and drugs and stuff, and the Christians saved him, so he considered himself a Christian Jew, right? But in our blood, that's what it is, and still I didn't all the way believe him. And then when I went to Eritrea, and I started talking to the people, started talking to my family members, and found out, there's a lot of things that's going on there. Like it's illegal to be certain religions. It's illegal to practice your certain beliefs depending on what you are, or if you press it on other people and stuff. And but things have changed. Things are changing now, and I'm happy about that. But there's a lot of change that needs to come there. So when all that happened, I realized, like, dang, in the Black community, we don't have anything that says I'm an adult now. That's all those things have been stripped from us when we were brought here to America, right? And so there's nothing that says, okay, you're an adult. Like there's quinceañeras for Spanish people. There's bar and bat mitzvahs for others. White people just inherit land and get their businesses. Everybody has something, but we don't have anything that says you're an adult. And I was talking with some of my friends, and they're like, hey, I've been to jail 3 times. I'm a grown man. That don't make you no grown man. That's just because you went to jail. That means that makes you a bad criminal.
That's right.
You're not good at crime.
That's
what that make you. Stupid. So I felt like I wanted to do something to show my people that, like, if you dig, like I went ahead and did my 23andMe, and everything my father said was true. Everything my mama said was not true. She think that we like Blackfoot, Indian, Navajo, or something like that. Ain't no Native American.
No Native American.
No Blackfoot Indian, unless those Blackfoots came from Africa, from Nigeria, and came here, and then they was like, we got here before Christopher Columbus, and then, which probably is what happened. But there's no Native American in my blood, but I got that East African, I got some European, I got, some Hebrew, I got all these things in me.
I was as confused as a cow in a parking lot.
Some Hebrew, I got all these things in me. Some Hebrew, I got all these things in me. So I said, I'm going to honor it. I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to learn the Hebrew. I'm going to study the religion. And it's not that far off from like Jehovah's Witnesses, where I grew up around, and in Baptist church. It's not that far off. And I don't know if you ever been to a temple, a Jewish temple, but you got to go because they be in there singing, okay?
Yeah. Really?
They sang.
Like black gospel choir singing?
Now, I don't know about like black gospel choir singing, but they sang. They get it in. They're like, Yah, Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu. Like they get it in. They get it in. I'm like, okay, I can rock with this.
Did you get any backlash to that at all? Because I know sometimes black people are like, no, we Baptist or we Catholic or.
Yeah, so some people have said things like, oh no, you black, that's what you are. You black, you Christian, you this. You don't know, because there's black everything. Right. There's some black people all over the world, and religion is one thing, and blood is another thing. Religion is one thing, and blood is another thing. Religion is one thing, and blood is another thing.
You can choose.
Did you hear that?
Choose your religion.
You can choose your religion. And
we original man and woman anyway.
That part.
Yeah.
That part. Yeah. And when you do your real true research about the Hebrews and the Jews and the Israelites and all that, you find out that they look a lot like us sitting in this room right now.
What?
How? Hold on, bro.
When you do your real true research about the Hebrews and the Jews and the Israelites and all that, you find out that they look a lot like us sitting in this room right now. So maybe somebody stole some of the Jewish religion. Anyway, let me shut up. I don't have to be like some people stole from the get-go, but because you can choose, because you have the right to choose, which we should have the right to choose, especially in certain states.
How has the Jewish community reacted to that? Like
most have embraced me and been very happy about it. Happy that I'm, talking about it, that I'm bringing awareness to it and bringing people closer to it. I haven't received just a few things like people like, oh, it's your dad, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. But if you go back to when that was determined, when that law was implemented, that you're only Jewish if your mother is Jewish, you have to remember there was no DNA testing. And then the saying, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. You don't know where mama been, right? So you automatically, whatever she is, that's what you are. But if you read the Torah, if you read the Bible, it's whatever your father is, you inherit the sins of your father, right? You inherit those things. And so you inherit his blood, his religion, his whatever. So I did the research, got my DNA test. That's my daddy. That's in my blood. That's what I am.
So they can't accuse you of cultural appropriation because that's your culture.
And if I was cultural appropriating, what's it to you? Because let's be honest, on my mama's side, we was raped. There's plenty of white blood on that side. I can't claim that.
True.
You telling me, because I could say I'm white. I could say that. You can look at my 23andMe and you will see the European in me.
Well, let's break it down, and let's break it down in small bits where people can actually get it.
Right.
Like a lot of people that are coming into consciousness, where they are right now, I sat at the elders of the Dr. Benz and the John Henry Clarks and the Professor Jeffries, Professor Smalls, Shashi McIntyre, and a few other people I could mention. Now, I'm there, physically there, not YouTubing it.
There was no YouTube back then. Yeah.
You had to physically go there, write the notes, study.
Maybe get a VHS tape or something like
and
that.
if you had 5 of them in your, you was making a whole lot of noise on the train, I'm saying.
Right.
All right, so to my understanding, now I want to thank Khalid El Hakim from the Black History 101 Mobile Museum. He had set up a talk with a rabbi.
Right.
And this is recently.
Right.
So, and I'm in front of a room full of Jewish people.
Right.
And I'm asking basic questions, and maybe you can help me out.
Right.
So let's look up the word anti-Semitic.
Right.
Who are the Semitic people? And then we're going to get to the public enemy thing.
Right.
So I looked up who is the Semitic people. And there's a list of Semitic people, and anyone can do this right now. You can look up who are the Semitic people, what are the Semitic languages.
Right.
Has absolutely nothing to do with any white people.
Right.
Not at all. So in order for me to be anti-Semitic, I'd have to be anti-black man, anti-black woman, anti-black people, anti-Africa, anti-all of the people.
Because the Semitic people
are black people.
So y'all get that clarity. We're going to say that again.
Now,
the Semitic people are black people.
So I cannot be anti-Semitic. Now, what do they really use the phrase anti-Semitic to do? That's the thing.
To divide us. Right.
So they put this title on you, anti-Semitic, and then they neutralize you,
right?
Separated me from the group,
right?
Say he's a Jew hater, he hate white people, he hate gay people, he hate all white people with freckles and red hair, whatever.
Right.
And they put that on me, which I never said these things.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I just ran down the history given to me by my elders. And anybody could read this for themselves.
Right.
So it ain't a Professor Griff hating people thing. Me and Chuck, we did all the interviews.
Right.
We sat down, we went to D.C., we was doing the interview that day, and it wasn't even my interview.
Right.
Chuck's interview, he didn't want to do it.
Right.
So I sat down with him. Now, mind you, I'm the Minister of Information.
Right.
I got 2 suitcases now.
Right.
I used to carry with 2 suitcases full of books.
Right.
And so I laid them all out on the table. So when I went into the interview, I was ready.
Right.
First question he asked is
just like this. How we just got to lay it out.
Exactly. Who controls the music industry?
Mm.
Well, what more am I supposed to say? You understand? I laid out the names, the people, the organizations they belong to. I laid it out. Now, mind you, this is not coming from Professor Griffith. I wasn't hating nobody that day.
And was it in that statement? Was it just like was it white people, Jewish people, white supremacy? Like was it more just like you just kind of just you weren't saying a hateful statement. You were just saying this is who controls it.
I laid out the names.
Right. Oh, so you specifically said people's names.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
People's names.
At that time, because this was what, 80, 89, 90?
Yeah, about 80, 89, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you just said people's names. And
I laid it out, and
right.
I showed them the books.
Right.
And I looked it up and showed it to them. This paragraph says this. These people control film industry, TV,
right.
music industry.
And as we know right now,
these are the players.
When we talk about media, there's 6 major corporations that control all of media.
Exactly.
This is beyond the music industry. And this is you were laying that construct down back then and naming names, calling them to the table. But even as we sit right here today, there's 6 major corporations that control everything that is delivered to you as we speak.
Exactly. So the 6 people can sit in this room and decide everything that we experience as far as entertainment. We watching the movies, reading the magazines. 6 people.
Right.
I laid that out. It wasn't a Jewish conversation.
Right.
It was about the music industry. The first 20 minutes of the conversation, we was laughing, joking, dapping each other up, talking.
Right.
His girlfriend walked in. We were talking about David Mills now.
Right.
Who dropped dead on a movie set.
Right.
His girlfriend walks in, and his girlfriend's white and Jewish. Well, I'm from Roseville, Long Island. We don't have no experience with white people like that. So I'm like...
Except for Howard Stern.
Exactly right. Exactly. So when she came and sat down, the complexion of the conversation changed. It became more And I'm like, you
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A couple of times he even pressed the pause button on the cassette.
Yeah,
recorder.
that privilege starts speaking. And
right. So now he had to change his tone because now the white Jewish girlfriend is sitting next to him.
Right.
And she's getting offended
right.
by me calling out the Cohens and the Moskowitz and the blacks and the
right.
And I'm like, okay, but still no hatred involved. I'm just laying the history out.
Yeah, we're just speaking facts.
When I finished the interview, he admitted and said to himself, you know something, this is the kind of stuff that can get you in a lot of trouble.
And then, you know what, and because this is one of the reasons why I feel honored to speak with you, but I feel like it's so prevalent and so on time, is because what we're dealing with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan being silenced on Facebook and other platforms.
Right. Neutralized.
Neutralized.
Right.
Which COINTELPRO is still active to this day. And COINTELPRO, for the young people that don't know, the counterintelligence program. And when you say counter, it's like because we have so much intelligence and information, they want to counter that by destroying us, by neutralizing us, by silencing us. So what we're speaking of today, because they attempted to silence Minister Farrakhan right now, which is COINTELPRO actions and activations, and they did the exact same thing to you. Why? And this is just a question that I have, and even coming from that aspect of if the true children of Israel, if we're speaking of the Jewish community, if we're speaking of the Abrahamic faiths that Islam comes from, that Judaism comes from, that Christianity comes from, all comes from Abraham. And we are all speaking of brotherhood and unity. Why is this division? Why is it such a problem? Why is there so much fear, specifically in the black community, in the Jewish community? And I'm kind of, this is a leading question, which I want to get to, but why is it such a problem to speak the truth?
I think it's a problem it became a problem for us because of the propaganda machine. But it's more of a problem for them.
Right.
Because they've taken our birthright.
Right. They don't want us to be them.
Not deeper than that. They don't want us to be us. They don't want you wrapping your head. They don't want.
Wow.
Nah, they don't want. Now because you recognize.
Right.
And now they identified you. Oh man, Nick knows.
Right.
Who he is, and then now the flip side of that, you know who they are.
Who are they? When we speak of, because this is where it truly is, and when we talk about the six corporations, when we go as deep as the Rothschilds, centralized banking, the 13 families, the bloodlines that control everything, even outside of America. When we talk about the people who, if we were truly the children of Israel, we were truly the children of Israel, we were truly the children of Israel, and we're defining who the Jewish people are, because I feel like if we actually can understand that construct, then we can see that there is no hate involved. When we talk about the lies, the deceit, how the fake dollar controls all of this, then maybe we can get to the reason why they wanted to silence you, why they wanted to silence Minister Farrakhan, and they want to throw that we are having hate speech when it's never hate speech, when it's not. You can't be anti-Semitic when the Semitic, when we are the Semitic people, when we are the same people that who they want to be. That's our birthright.
That's our birthright.
We were truly the children of Israel. We were truly the children of Israel.
Get out of here. We flew to Uganda, to Africa. I was there on the plane with him and Kim and his daughter and his dad. Wow. Flying to Uganda. We reading about how black people are the real Israelites and all.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago.
About how black people are the real Israelites and all this amazing history. I'm on the plane reading with him, giving him nutritional suggestions, because my mom is a health guru. You know what I'm saying? So it was hurtful. It was hurtful, bro.
Nah, I believe you. And if you walk past and you're black, say, brother, you need to listen to this scripture, man. Don't let these white people nah, I'm just going to an audition. That audition, read. It says right here that the black man needs to stop being, we are the chosen people. We are the 12 tribes of Judah. Now listen, this is coming from I think this is coming from being lied to for so long, right? Being lied to, making all the images white, even though you just said they're melanated people. These people were melanated. In the Bible, when I was reading it, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. Everybody was white, man. The King James version of this, they don't talk about the black royalty, the black kings and queens that were in Europe. They don't bring that up. They don't bring back how a lot of these people were black. They don't bring up none of that shit. Everybody was white. When I watched the 10 Commandments, right? Charlton Heston's a white dude that goes up into the mountains and shit. And he said he talked to God. Cleopatra's white. Everybody's white. That's where that's coming from. It's that the images that they changed. Why is it that they did a movie recently on Egypt and everybody was white? Gerard Butler, and I know Gerard. Gerard's from Scotland. And why is he in an Egyptian movie? I'm not saying that Europeans couldn't be in Egypt, but why are the main characters all white? Why is the Great Wall with Matt Damon, Genghis Khan, why is he not Mongolian? Why is he white? What is this with this addiction or this thing about making all these people that aren't white? Why are you telling stories with white people in them that are not white? Here's the problem. With the Bible, whatever scriptures, there has been a lot of tampering with this shit. A lot of tampering. Now, we're talking about shit that happened thousands of years ago, which we don't fucking know. Nobody was there. I mean, presently. Everybody is talking about shit. You weren't there. There's no footage. We don't have footage on anything. All we can believe in is stuff we see on the walls and this and digging up shit. A lot of these architecture groups, I think a lot of them do a lot of fuck shit where they like changing shit. Like I think sometimes some might dig up some shit and go, oh shit, it's black. Yo, don't tell anybody. Change that shit. I really believe they do that shit. They be going into Egypt trying to change the color of the walls, not making them white. Because I'm saying biblically, can we talk geographically and scientifically?
Right. And I know where you're going with this.
You know where I'm going with this? I'm saying
the original Jews and Jesus and everyone else were all people of color. Point blank. It can't be.
Yo, you say this. You say it.
Argued.
I want you to say that. Let it come out your mouth. Go ahead. Do it one more time.
The original Jews, Jesus, and everyone else who was living in the Middle East. So let me tell you something. I have been to the Middle East. Go out there. I have been to Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain. All these places I have been to.
Yeah,
Egypt. All these places. It's all brown people. It's near the equator. Okay? This is how it works.
I just had a rabbi give me an analogy. He said, look, imagine you left your home and then someone came and occupied it and then you try to get it back and then they went to the judge. Have you heard some of these analogies? Maybe you can.
Yeah, that's assuming that, that's taking it into a place which I don't usually go. That's making the assumption that today's Jews are really the descendants of the ancient Hebrews that used to live in that part of the world some 3,000 years ago. That's a bit of a stretch for me. And even if it was true, I don't think I agree with him. It doesn't justify. I did not live there 3,000 years ago. My grandparents immigrated from Ukraine. Their parents, their grandparents didn't live there. And I don't know any Jew that can trace his or her ancestors back to the ancient Hebrews. So that's a lot of, a lot of myth there.
But they claim they want to build the temple. Now, I want to discuss a little bit of sensitive history. And if I go to sensitive history, well, then I must quote sources that say it rather than that I say it. This is a fascinating book, and the web pages are there. You can check it out. Facts are facts. This is a book that was written by a Jewish man. And he confronted the thinking of many of the high-placed individuals of the world. This is interesting stuff. In this book, Benjamin H. Friedman, a Jewish man, writes about the Jews and reveals an interesting history. He states that the present Jews in Palestine are not the true descendants of the Judeans, but rather descendants of the Khazars. In the letter addressed to D. David Goldstein of Boston, Massachusetts, a convert to Catholicism, the author, Benjamin Friedman of New York City, dated October 1954, provides some fascinating insights. This is in the public domain. Let's study this for a while and see where we get. Benjamin H. Friedman claims that the word Jew was only introduced into the English language in the 18th century, and that Jesus referred to himself as a Judean and not as a Jew. Inscribed upon the cross when Jesus was crucified were the Latin words Iesus Nazarenus Rex Iodeorum, which means Jesus of Nazareth, ruler of the Judeans. Now this is fascinating. I went and checked it, and it is so. Yes, it happens to be so. Now the word Jew today has a religious as well as a political connotation. You think of a Jewish entity, a government, but you also think of their religion incorporated at the same time, whereas the term Judean is a geographic connotation. It's a geographic. It doesn't incorporate the religion. It's where he came from. He was from Judah. He was a Judean. He further writes, the form of religious worship known as Pharisaism in Judea in the time of Jesus was a religious practice based exclusively upon the Talmud. The Talmud in the time of Jesus was the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all rolled into one, of those who practiced Pharisaism. The Talmud today occupies the same relative position with respect to those who profess Judaism. So the rituals and rites that many of them observed were based on the Talmud and not on the Torah. Rabbi Morris, this is all from the source. Rabbi Morris in Kurtzer wrote a most revealing and comprehensive article with the title, What is a Jew?, which was published as a feature article in Look magazine in June 17, 1952 issue. In that article, Rabbi Morris Kurtzer evaluated the significance of the Talmud to Judaism today. In that illuminating treatise and that important subject, by the most qualified authority at the time, Rabbi Morris N. Kurtzer stated, the Talmud consists of 63 books of legal, ethical, and historical writings of the ancient rabbis. It was edited 5 centuries after the birth of Jesus. It is a compendium of law and lore. It is the legal code which forms the basis of the Jewish religious law, and it is, note, the textbook used in the training of rabbis. So rabbis are trained according to the Talmud. And the Talmud has very little in common with the Bible. As to the origin of the present Jews in Palestine, he states that those Jews derived from Eastern Europe, and many of the Jews that today live in the reconstituted state of Israel come from Eastern Europe, are not descendants of the Judeans or the lost tribes of Israel, but rather descendants of the Khazars. Who were they? They were a nation most people do not even know of. He writes, the so-called self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe in modern history cannot legitimately point to a single ancient ancestor who ever set even a foot on the soil of Palestine in the era of Bible history. Research also revealed that the so-called or self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe were never Semites, are not Semites now, nor can they ever be regarded as Semites at any future time by any stretch of the imagination. What secret, mysterious power has been able for countless generations to keep the origin and the history of the Khazars and the Khazar kingdom out of the history textbooks? Did you ever learn about it at school? I never learned about it. And out of classroom courses in history throughout the world, the origin and the history of Khazars and the Khazar kingdom are certainly incontestable historical facts. You have to do some cross-checking. Even the Jewish encyclopedia is quite explicit about it. This was the Khazar kingdom. Here is the Black Sea, the Byzantine Empire. Here was Persia. And here was the kingdom of the Khazars. It was a massive kingdom. Now let's look at some of this interesting history. The Khazars were an Asiatic nation. And the Jewish encyclopedia states Persian origin that converted to Talmudic Judaism. And that had conquered a vast area of Eastern Europe, which was in turn later conquered by the Russians in the 10th and 13th century. So that is why there are so many Russian Jews. Have you ever thought where they came from? Did they escape from Palestine? Were they the lost 10 tribes? Did they emigrate to Russia? No. This is a totally different nation that accepted Talmudic Judaism. He writes, after a historic session with representatives of the three monotheistic religions, King Bulan, 7th century, decided against Christian and Islam, because Islam had just arisen, and selected as the future state religion the religious worship then known as Talmudism, and not known and practiced as Judaism, which was totally different, which was based on the Bible. They adopted the Hebrew alphabet, and the Khazars adapted words to their requirements from the German, the Slavonic, and the Baltic languages. This language was known as Yiddish. And Yiddish used the Hebrew alphabetic characters, but not Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. It's Yiddish. I've always wondered, when I hear them speaking Yiddish, I understand quite a few words. Why? Because I'm German. They had many exchanges with universities and their students were trained. So here is another nation which had occupied this area, and they had adopted this religion and brought rabbis in and trained the people, but they were not Judean.
Deceitfully. And Delilah made Shimshon Samson sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks off his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. You see, Samson was the first Rasta. He was a Negro lion fighter, similar to the African Maasai tribe. Judges 14:5 and 16:19. You see, Samson tore a lion apart as he would a young goat. And as a Nazarite, he wore 7 dreadlocks. He was mahogany in body color, just like Malcolm X. And his visage was blacker than coal. He was a Negro. Lamentations 4:7 and 8. And this is really hard for people to see in Scripture, because predominantly it has been the Caucasians that have been in charge of the Scriptures, right? For millennia. Lamentations 5:10. Our skin was black like an oven. Job 30 verse 30. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. And Yahweh shall bring you into Mitzrayim, Egypt again, with ships. And the way of which I said to you, you shall see it no more again. And there you shall be sold to your enemies for slaves and female slaves, and no man shall buy you. And that is what happened to the regal class of the house of Judah. And I want to give you a brief history. I won't go into it too much, but I can't just make that statement because there'll be people that'll push back. But I want to give you a brief history on slavery. I was just amazed, I got to tell you. I mean, when you come to America and you talk to people about slavery, you can talk to black people about slavery, white people about slavery, and they'll give you all this history on slavery, and it only goes back to the 16th and the 17th century. And you're like, don't they teach you the history of slavery? Why? Ask the bloody question. Why are they only teaching you the history of slavery as far back as the 16th and the 17th century? Why are they only going that far back? Because they don't want you to go farther back than that, because then you'll actually find out the truth. But from the 16th and 17th century, we'll teach you about slavery. You've got to go further back, and you've got to understand and question, why do they do this throughout the whole of America, in all the public schools? Why do they only go back as far as the 16th and the 17th century to talk about slavery? We've got to go further back than that. Because Islam designed infernal slavery, and then the Ashkenazi Khazars, those who say they are Jews and are not, are the ones that marketed it, and the regal Negro nomads exiled from the kingdom of Judah were the main recipients of it at the hands of the indigenous black Africans. Because you've got to understand, the regal class of the house of Judah came down from Israel, and they came into the land of the black Africans. And the black Africans resented the regal class of the house of Judah in their land, because they had laws, they had customs, they had civility, and they were a regal class of Negro that came down into Africa. And later on, it was the Ashkenazi, the Islamic slave traders as well, that then worked together with the indigenous black Africans to enslave the regal house of Judah. This is what we've got to understand, but you've got to go back before the 16th century to understand the roots of it. So we're going to see, as we dig into this, where this slavery came from.
You know who they are. You need to know who the true Hebrew Israelites are. You need to go and study. I don't need to make this go 40 more minutes trying to teach you who the true Hebrew Israelites are. There's enough messages and teachings out there on it. And if you go read your Bible, you'll clearly know who they are. You can't hide a white Jesus in Egypt and expect him to blend right in. You ain't going to happen. You ain't going to mistake Paul for an Egyptian if Paul's a white person. You ain't going to have Moses be able to walk right, or be carried right into the house of Pharaoh and pass as one of his sons if he's a white baby. It ain't going to happen. So let's just get to the bottom line here, okay? They're brown-skinned people. Simple. But then you got the Christians out here that they went, and the Catholics had changed that. They whitewashed the whole thing. And then you got people who are supposed to be getting back to the book, back to the truth. They're still trying to whitewash it.